Let's talk about Leo.
Leo!
Woo! So I know Melanie, Pardesi Reviews, she's there the first day.
First day for show.
Right. I was not because they were sold out, but I tried.
Yeah. No, I bought my ticket a week ahead. I mean, it was serious.
I try to, it's a weird thing in LA. You can't buy tickets more than 3 days in advance. It's
I thought that was so crazy when you told me that.
Yeah. So I kept trying. Then the minute I got up on the first day, I tried to go, and they were only showing in these small theaters for some reason. It was like, so I kept checking, sold out, sold out, sold out. So then the next day I would check for the third day in advance, sold out, sold out. Then finally, oddly, Friday night, but it was already out for like 3 days by that point. So
did you watch it in Tamil or was it Hindi
Tamil.
with? Okay, it was Tamil.
That was another thing that was sort of preventing me, I think, from getting theater. I really wanted to see it in Tamil. So they had it in Hindi, and they had it in Hindi. And I was like, I gotta see it in Tamil. Yeah, I wanted to see Tamil.
I agree. Yeah, my theater was showing it also, I think, in Telugu. And so I did a spoiler-free review on my channel, and I'm so glad that you invited me on to talk about it, because there's so many spoilers and things that I just kind of had to be like, nope.
Yeah, there's definitely.
I didn't want to spoil any enjoyment of all the twists and turns. I mean, you and I are familiar with the film that this is an adaptation of, which is History of Violence, Cronenberg film starring Viggo Mortensen. And so some of the bones of that story were there. Like, all I revealed in my review was, I knew what was going to happen with that coffee pot. Like,
anytime the camera lingers on an object, I'm like, that's coming back. Well, it's definitely worth checking out Melanie's spoiler for your review, because you get the energy of that. Just had seen the movie.
I literally had just come home.
Definitely watch it
that night, that first night that it came out.
I love that.
But it was so hard to not talk about certain things. And literally just this morning, I saw on Twitter, and we found out that there were different versions of this film that were released. And so, they had different points in the film when Vijay's character reveals that he truly is Leo.
That's right. Why don't you should read them. Read the 3. And also, you guys, be sure, this is a spoiler-tastic.
Spoilerific.
And this particular plot point is very spoilery. So that's the weird thing. We had 3 versions of this film are out there, and you don't know. And both Melanie and I saw 2 different versions in America, which is really
in America, right?
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
So this was from somebody posted it on Twitter, but it was from the Hollywood Reddit. So version 1, Sanjay Dutt never learns that Party is Leo. And that was seen by this person's friend in Atlanta. That is the version that I saw.
Interesting.
So we did not see Sanjay Dutt's death. We saw him fumbling with the broken cigarette. And I don't even remember if Leo lights it for him. But then suddenly there's an abrupt cut, and somebody else is like transferring his body back down south. Like, it was kind of confusing. I was like, oh, he did die. Oh, okay. And then it wasn't until the very end that he reveals to the actor Arjun's character, the very, very end. Right. And then, as Ray said in the subtitle, he victoriously laughs, because Vijay means victory. So it was like, he victoriously laughs. I love that.
That's right.
All right. So version 2, the audience finds out that Party revealed his identity as Leo to Sanjay Dutt as he's about to die, though the audience only learned it after the Arjun fight. This was seen by some friends in India. And then version 3, which is the version this person saw, Leo reveals his identity to Sanjay Dutt as he's about to die, and the audience learns it on the spot. Yes. So before he even meets Arjun in the climax, the audience is already aware that Party is Leo.
Right.
So that's the version that you saw?
That's the one I saw. Yeah. And it was a great scene. And I can't imagine them wanting to cut it, because the performance was great. The way that Vijay is talking to Dutt, kind of leans into him, and that's kind of laying on the street, sitting on the street against the truck, and he has that, he's barely alive, and he kind of leans in and finally says it in a really malicious way. I am Leo. Like, says in a really creepy, aggressive way. And so
Yeah.
you knew like that was sort of the Leo coming out of him in that moment. And so Dutt was kind of like, and his eyes kind of get wide, and then he dies with his eyes kind of wide in shock, and they kind of pull back. It's a great scene. And then from then on, we're aware that he's putting on an act, which I thought was a really effective. You know something nobody else in the movie knows, and so you're kind of watching him lie to everyone and kind of put on the act, especially when he sees Arjun again, where he's all like, "Well, I don't know what he's done," being all innocent, and you're like, he's so good.
I mean, it sounds like the director Lokesh Kanagaraj couldn't really decide when he wanted the audience to know.
Yeah.
I think possibly the best is version 2, where you still have the scene of him telling his father, but you don't see it until later.
Yeah.
Because it probably was really a discussion. Do we want the audience to know going into that whole climax sequence in Tamil Nadu, in the tobacco factory, the big confrontation with Arjun, when, as you said, he's still putting on, what are you talking about? I don't know who this Leo person is,
Yeah.
I don't have a sister. What do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm just an orphan. What?
I just look like him. I barely look like him. I don't know.
Right. Like, so
my hair is totally different.
You still have this. I mean, I knew.
Yeah.
I was like, if they're going to follow history of violence, I knew what was going to happen. But it keeps that doubt, in the audience. I mean, because the same thing, he has the whole conversation with his wife, Trisha, like, how could you think that was me? That's not me. I'm not Leo. But I mean, like, psychologically, he's saying, I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah, he's trying to really push. He does not want to be that guy. But see, I knew the minute in the coffee shop that he was at. I mean, you knew that he wasn't just the mild-mannered.
That's true.
So we've seen enough of these movies where someone's like kind of undercover and they have a whole new life, but then they're forced to come out and show their true colors in a moment. What it requires, which was very valid. And so when you see that, I'm like, well, he's definitely it. So I'm just like waiting for the reveal, waiting.
Right.
And I feel like at that point, I feel like one thing kind of obvious. I mean, who else would he be? I mean,
right. I mean, yeah. So I really felt cheated in not seeing him tell Sanjay Dutt and not seeing Sanjay Dutt die, right? Because I mean, this is Sanjay Dutt. Like, what? Come on, we're not going to get to see him. What?
And you're seeing him sitting in the street with that look on his face and the camera pulling back was such a great, impactful scene. I'm shocked that they even had a doubt that shouldn't be in the movie.
So they literally were doing A/B testing on audiences to see which one people would respond to, and it's going to be fascinating when this comes to streaming.
Yeah.
Is this going to be like pick your adventure? Like you can pick version you want.
It's like, yes, it's true. He is Leo. The name of the movie is Leo. It's about trying to find Leo. It's like everybody knows. So to pretend like, oh, we're not going to give anybody the satisfaction of really knowing till the very, it's like, really, you guys, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, you see what he did with the cheetah? I mean, not the cheetah. I keep saying
the
cheetah.
hyena.
The hyena. She's going to do the hyena.
Yeah, I mean, Rakes is the one that did the subtitles for all the versions in the different languages of this film, and so she, when I came home from the movie, she's like, "Call me before you record," and she asked me, "Did you see him reveal that he was Leo to Sanjay Dutt?" Because she had subtitled that scene, and she's like, "I don't know." They kept talking about editing it and changing, and she's like, what did you see? But at that point I thought, okay, they made the choice to not reveal it until the very end. That was the final decision. I had no idea that they would release multiple versions, and I don't think she had any idea of that either. And it's not like, okay, the international was this and the Tamil Nadu was this. We're both in different cities in America, and we got different versions.
So weird. So random. Like, I wonder if there's even multiple versions in Los Angeles. Like when I was in the theater, I walked by and it was showing in like 2 different theaters, and they had glass doors you could kind of see in. I'm like, oh, it's showing in here too. And then I wonder what ending they saw.
Right.
Did I just randomly get? That's fascinating. And this movie's had a really weird rollout. From the very beginning, the release was very strange. Like they delayed it in times in different in India. They, released it in the wrong language, or not even wrong, different languages that weren't appropriate necessarily for the area they were releasing it in. Like, they were releasing it in like Hindi in South India, something like that, like weird. And so I feel like even with all of these weird rollout problems, like weird release problems, it's still like I think it's crossed over from 200 crore. So it's doing fantastic at the box office. So all the haters who said it's going to be a flop, it's not. It's not a flop.
In fact, I think it had first day advanced sales better than even Joanne, at least in South India it did. Yeah. So it's not just the name of Vijay or Sanjay Dutt that's attached to it. It's also this director, Lokesh Kanagaraj, has really made a name for himself with films like Kaiti and Vikram. And there was a fire alarm in the middle of my movie.
I love that.
Okay, like 20 to 30 minutes from the end. He was having that conversation with Trisha in the bedroom. And then all of a sudden lights started flashing. The movie stopped. We had to evacuate the building. So what was fascinating was seeing that the entire theater building, nobody was there to watch Taylor Swift movie. And everybody went. It was like all of these Desi families and me. But anyway, some people, the film hadn't even started yet for them. And so people were asking me, is it good? Whatever. And then they wanted to know, is this part of the LCU? Is this part of the Lokesh Cinematic Universe? Because he has made connections between his other previous films. And when I told them, I'm like, I'm not going to reveal why, but yes. And my crowd went insane.
Oh, I love that.
In Napoleon, the very short cop from Kaiti.
I love that.
His back. No one saw his face, but like the sweater, that everybody just completely insane in my audience, whistling, screaming, like they were, because that was the connection, the first connection. And and it wasn't just a little walk on, he's gone. No, he had a huge part of the supporting role in the movie.
He was so cute. And I love that they made his past that is also in the universe part of his story. Like he comes in and of course, Vijay's literally towering over him, which, and he kind of like looks like a little kid carrying a bunch of big bags in his big huge. What kind of gun was that? Like,
I don't know. It was
like, whatever it did,
like something like a shotgun for a tiger or something.
I mean, you could shoot a car with it and it blows up. So it must be a really powerful gun, as we find out later. But I love how he kind of goes, "You're the guy," and he has just such a cute face, So he gives him a chance, and he's kind of not super great at it, and he's kind of coasting on this reputation that he got from another film, basically.
Right.
So, I love that. And so that was
you really brought down all this big drug bust with all these people. You.
Like, okay. In the meantime, he's watching him falling asleep on his porch when he's supposed to be protecting his family, or he's gone to get coffee, and everyone, the home invasion happens. But he had a great, and I kept saying, "Oh, please let this guy have his moment." Like, I didn't want them to let him just sort of be a loser and get killed or whatever's going to happen to him. And I'm glad that they gave him a pretty great moment on the back of the motorcycle. It was so good.
Awesome way to bring in a character from the other movie. Like, and
it was great because it didn't matter if you recognized him or not. He worked just as a character on his own. Like, you were kind of, what is this? And he was almost comedy relief, almost, like it kind of came in, and knowing the other kind of behind the scenes made it even richer. So I thought that was a really savvy, cool move that the director made.
Very, very, very good.
Really good.
I mean, like I said, my audience at least, and I was also extremely happy. I was like,
so good. And then there was another cameo that was very strange. Let's talk about that one.
Anirudh Kashyap.
Which, we had just done that. We did that review of
AK versus AK.
Yeah. And so we just saw that, which he was so good in. Like, I didn't realize he was such a good actor. And when I saw the little promo for it, where it looks like the actor and the director taking questions to the audience, I thought that was real. I thought that was really just for the movie.
Yeah.
So he's a really fun actor. So to see him in that, like, I love how they kind of barely let the crowd kind of parts, and you see him, and I'm like, oh my God. And so I'm saying,
I was just like, one of these things does not belong in this picture.
I was all excited, like, oh, good, because he's a really funny actor, and then gone.
He dies.
Which is kind of funny. I guess apparently he said, I always wanted to die in one of your films, and they let him be in it, and he got to die in the film, and that's all they let him do. It was pretty hilarious.
I mean, literally because of the fire alarm, I was like, did I just hallucinate that? Did that just happen? And I'm Googling in the break while we're waiting for them to restart the film. And I'm like, and I saw a news report that rumors are that Anurag Kashyap is going to filming. And I'm like,
it's like, when, how, what?
Okay,
Like,
but I love that there's this mutual admiration society, right, between the directors, and he's just like, "Put me in, coach. Put me in.
Come on.
Right away."
It's like, what are you doing today? You want to come down and get shot? Sure, come on down. It's like he got showed up for lunch. They shot him. He's done. Shot him.
I love it. It was so random, and I just was like,
it was so. And you know, and it was also during a very important scene where we get to see Leo doing his thing, and he had like the cool. I loved him in the cool short haircut and everything.
Oh yeah. Okay, so let's talk about what a silver fox that Vijay is with the gray hair. I love that he's doing it in the last few films.
I love that,
showing the little bit of gray.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but that's a head of hair though, man. Woo, that still looks good. He still look good. So okay, so we're kind of all over the place, but so we'll start like let's talk about the hyena. So
okay, Kathy was texting me.
I was very worried.
How Kathy is about animals. She's like, I'm like, the hyena lives.
I'm like, you can spoil this for me. Please tell me what happens to hyena, or I'm gonna have a problem with this movie, right? And she goes, she lives. I'm like, oh yay! It's like, so I was relieved. And then when I'm watching the scene, I'm like, are she sure it lives? Because it's not looking very good. But I love that they open with this scene. So it opens with the fact that a hyena has come down into the city for whatever reason. Like, and I love too where like anywhere else, you know, like in America especially, they would just shoot it. Done, shoot it.
Yes.
Which I love. So they're like, we're not shooting it. And so I love, this is what I thought was great. And it kind of applied throughout the movie where he goes, the cheetahs act this way because out of fear, because you're throwing shit at it and chasing it.
Yeah.
So
it was looking for a place to hide.
Yeah, he's just trying to find a place to hide and lay low till he can get out of there because he's probably lost his pack and he's trying to figure out what to do. So he's like, we're not killing it. It's not here to be aggressive. You got, you know. So I love that he took control and he's like the animal rescuer. That's sort of one of his things too. Like I love they had a few little fun animal things in it.
Yeah.
So there's this great scene, like fantastic camera work. First of all, overall, the camera work was mind blowing. Some of it was like, how did they even? It must have been drones. I have no idea. But they had these great scenes of like following the hyena wherever it was going, like over and under and insane. And the hyena was beautifully done. Like, fortunately, it was just enough CGI that wasn't too scared, but it looked good. I mean, they spent some time.
Good. Yeah, with the blood dripping off its mouth and the whole
look where it turns out. It's just like covered. You know, it just bit a guy's leg off. He deserved it though. So. But anyway, so they have this great scene, and I'm amazed how they do it. Like where Sanjay, where you know Vijay grabs the hyena because he's broken all the weapons and he's kind of wrestling with it. Like what is he? I just blew me away. So they did a great scene where they actually finally subdue the cheetah. I mean, why do I keep calling it a cheetah? They subdue the hyena.
But yeah,
it's a hyena, and they finally subdue it. And they tranquilize it, which was like a relief to me.
I mean, he had to do it manually because, of course, the thing like broke the everything else that he was trying to do.
Got it in a headlock, like that would work, you know. And so he's so good at it. But at that point, you're like, okay, this guy isn't just a normal guy. He can actually think about a strategy on tranquilizing a hyena, chase it down, and wrestle it manually. So you're like, something's up, right? This is not your average guy. And so he gets some attention for that too.
Yeah.
So I love that they tranquilize the hyena goes away. And you're like, okay, well, that was a cool opening scene. Well, the hyena comes back. So then they have a scene.
Comes back.
That was another where I'm like, I love this director in this movie now because they bring it back and they're like, no, it's tame now. It's friendly. We can make it a pet. Like it's in like kind of. So they're like, he brings his kids in.
He's like, daughter, come over and pet this. I'm like, no.
I was like, it's still a wild animal. So,
I'm like, literally any zoo where you had an animal that chewed somebody's leg off. I know. Like, yeah, this thing needs to be put down. It's had some people.
But it was scared.
Put down.
It was self-defense.
Oh man.
So then he brings his kid, and I forget the name of the hyena. It was something like Sabrina or it wasn't Sabrina, but it was a cute name. It was going to give a cute name. And so the little kid comes in, and I love that they had the kind of little giggling sound a hyena makes, it kind of laughing like, and that made it kind of cute. So then the hyena has kind of become, you know, and enamored with, Telepathy Vijay, as we all are. So of course he takes.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, you can't
It's
blame
under
it.
the spout.
It's only it's a mammal. It's destined. So that was another cool scene. So I thought that was kind of, so then you're like, okay, we had a cool opening scene with the threatening hyena. They handled it in a unique way that was humane and great. Then we have the hyena is not a bad thing, just like it's just this animal that has been scared and we're good now. I love, and you kind of forget about it, that it
I
comes
totally
back
forgot about
again.
it. I totally forgot about it.
It was the best.
It's back. It's back.
So, of course, the bad guys do a home invasion.
Yeah, because now Vijay is packed. Like,
yes. Now we're like, okay, all bets are off. And I love too. They did some great things where early in the movie they do some things that clue you in. Like we have the hyena. We have a moment where he's in the shop. Now he's just making shit like bear traps. Like weird, like snap up. Whatever those were, big dangerous weapons. So you kind of go, okay. And then that kind of goes away and you kind of sort of in the back of your mind, you sort of forget. I love that it all comes back into play in that one scene. Everything kind of just, solidifies this great scene where they're like, this gang comes, gonna get the family, which also I thought was weird. Like, so you're gonna leave your family unattended, except for that one guy.
Yeah.
You're gonna leave and they're up there sleeping all by themselves. I'm like, what the hell, dude? What are you doing?
Yeah.
That was kind of weird. Even with all your traps, it was kind of a little bit of
it's like, isn't there a grandma or somebody you can go stay with? Like,
I know, like you're just gonna stay in your house where everybody knows where it is. But I love that they have this big it was a great scene where they're walking up to the house. All of a sudden, these bear traps are going off, catching everyone. These big smack your face weapons. They're annihilating, impaling everyone. And they just keep going. We're going to keep going. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, stop it. And then you have the little guy trying to shoot everyone. It was so good.
It was epic.
You just had a couple people finally make it through to the house. And of course, they had these crazy deadbolts and these doors everywhere. Of course, these insane deadbolts are on doors that just splinter when you kick them. So I'm like, well, that wasn't such great design. So maybe you could spend a little more time on the doors. A little bit more time. So fortunately, she wasn't super helpless, screaming and being a ninny. She grabbed her kid and she was, hiding and running from room to room. But finally, they corner her in a hallway. And this was a great scene, too, because I guess was that simultaneously, who was he talking to on the phone where you hear where he kind of does that and he says the name like it's on the phone. Oh, he's talking. So he's talking to the bad guy who's in his hallway, I guess. So I'm going to kill your family now. That's what it was. He was like, I'm going to kill your family now. I've got him trapped in the hallway. And he kind of does this weird, says the name. And I'm like, that was weird. Next thing you know, the door kind of cracks open. Here comes the hyena. Just hanging out in the house. Takes the guy down. It was so beautiful. So great animal use of an animal in a super unique way. I know we're going on and on about it, but that's my thing.
No, but you keyed into what was great is that there was all these little setup scenes that were fun to watch as they happened earlier in the film, but then the payoff was totally there. So we got the payoff, which was why for me I was like, I didn't get the payoff in my abrupt, truncated Sanjay Dutt scene. Like we've set up this Sanjay Dutt as this big bad blah 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 blah. Like what?
You don't get to see a death scene? That's kind of major.
We just get to see a broken cigarette and we're done. What?
You get to see him sitting in the street and that's over. You're like, did he die? I don't know.
I would tell. Yeah. Then I saw a body bag and I'm like, oh,
I guess he died.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So my version was not the best, but anyway, okay. There was so much that was great in taking this, really great American Hollywood film.
Yes.
History of violence and adapting it to a Tamil action film.
Yes.
Because I do think Vijay was great. Okay, the last few films that he's done has been so much fan service.
Yeah.
And here I felt like, okay, we actually have a good story.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He has a really great story. He has opportunity to play all different emotions that are organic to the situation of what's happening in the film, of someone who's honestly a great family man, great guy. I loved all the tiny little moments of like him fighting with the wife and I can't wear this shirt. I have to change shirts so she won't see the bloody shirt. And then, she's like, fine, we're going to go, but I'm going to be mad about it. Like, like it was such tiny little character moments that were awesome. Okay. And really told us about the relationships in the family and then, but then we had these absolutely fantastic action scenes. If they hadn't let us back in the building after, after the fire alarm, and I didn't get to see that amazing motorcycle chase, I would be rioting right now. Okay, because the action in the last half hour was so good. And so, Lokesh Kanagaraj has so many talents. He adapted this great story. He made it perfect for Vijay, perfect for, like you say,
for him.
showing the nice guy, but also a lethal guy, right?
That's
like a guy who can, but also I love that, like that scene of him screaming in the snowy street because he's had to be violent again, and he like this release of emotion, like I didn't want to be this, and they're they're pulling me back in, and I don't want, like, just the scream of. So I thought Vijay showed acting chops. I'm not just talking about the great stunt work. I'm saying he showed it was very emotional in certain scenes. It was great. So I felt like he really showcased Vijay without just having to have tons of slow-mo entry shots or inside jokes in his films or whatever. He really honored Vijay as an actor, gave to the fans. I mean, me as a Vijay fan, he gave me what I wanted. He gave me a great story, a fun movie, Vijay being able to act like crazy.
Some
emotional moments, and also a lot of great action scenes. So I came out saying that this was, for me, one of the best Vijay movies, like, in the last decade. I mean, I have seen a lot of Vijay movies, and I felt like, I mean, Mersal was great, whatever, you know what I mean? But I mean, this was just so great on so many different levels.
It really was. And I totally agree. And, again, there's the tech aspect of it, which I love. The location, super unique and beautiful.
Yes.
Brutal to film in. I've seen the making of it. It just looked like they kept saying we had to try and find ways to keep the cameras warm because they kept freezing. So they actually shot in a cold area, which I love when they do that, because when they fake cold, you can kind of tell the actors are not uncomfortable. You could tell the actors were feeling the cold in some of these scenes. Like they were definitely in the cold. You could see their faces were a little flushed, whatever. It felt real. It felt down, but also beautiful, like the incredible mountains.
Oh, the mountains,
like the mountain.
Yeah.
And they had this incredible house.
Like, oh my God, that house.
Gorgeous house. And funny scene where he's finally, like, the wife is kind of getting suspect of it. He's acting because what's happening is he's being confronted with these moments where he's having to, let's talk about the diner scene. So we'll start with that. The impetus. So it starts off, which I thought was kind of shocking. And my husband went with us, and he was like, didn't know what was happening. He goes, I thought those were going to be the bad guys. What happened? So you start off with these terrible thugs who come to the town. They're terrible, brutal killers, just like knocking people off motorcycles and shooting cars and knocking for like literally like maybe $200 or something, like the ridiculous low rent shit. So they're supposed to hide out in this.
And that guy with that evil smile too. It's like,
that guy, this serial killer.
Like, hey, bonus, I get to rape this girl. Ooh,
and I heard somewhere, I'm not sure who that actor was, but I heard somewhere he's not even an actor, like he's like a choreographer or something. Like, he wasn't. Well, I thought he was great. Whoever he was,
he had such an impact. Wow.
Eyes. So he was great because he basically just kept saying the same stuff over and over. When he got, so they go to the coffee shop, like he sees across the street, Vijay's character has turned on this music, this kind of cool retro song, and he's dancing for his daughter. It's closing time at the chocolate coffee shop.
But I think he sees the female employee, and then so he
sees her in the windows.
And so that's he's like,
So the other, because they're such idiots, the other thugs don't even notice he's leaving. He leaves. He takes the gun. They're kind of like distracted, and
I think they were asleep in the van. They were just sleeping in the van. They didn't even have.
They were lame as hell. Like, you got this complete loose cannon guy who's like killing children in their home invasion. So
let's just put the gun in the glove box. It's
like, where is he? Oh, well, he's such a crazy guy. So he goes in there, but I love he walks in. He's like, sorry, we're closed. He's like, chocolate coffee. And he goes, no, we're closed. Chocolate coffee. So he keeps saying that like a mantra. He keeps saying over, and they're like, we're going to serve this guy because he's fucking psycho. Right? But the woman comes out. She's all totally clueless. He grabs her, and it's just, and so then Vijay realizes that, I'm going to have to de-escalate this. So at this point, we don't know his deal. This is the big, and it's also the big scene in the original History of Violence, is the diner scene.
Yeah.
So, and I also love the idea of chocolate coffee. I really want to try that. So, why don't we have more of that? So that's where, like you were talking about, he brings out the little tray with the chocolate coffee, puts it down. They show the coffee pot, very conspicuously showing the beautiful setup that he had. Like you said, coffee pot. It could be a great weapon.
I'm spotting that coffee pot.
So, the psycho is taking out like a knife or something. He's holding on to the girl. He's being really creepy. So all hell breaks loose. BJ goes into it's almost like he's a sleeper cell that's been activated. And they kind of show his face, like his eyes kind of go, and you get this sort of coldness.
Like he's noticing all these little details.
Like he's sort of like the Terminator.
Hyper awareness of all the situation.
And it was painful for me to see this beautiful coffee shop, seeing him destroy his own shop.
Oh yeah, because it was gorgeous.
He's like breaking chairs, tables,
throwing people around,
mugs. He's like destroying his refrigerator case. Like everything. So his poor coffee shop is just devastated. And then of course the idiots wake up in the van and they look and they go, what's going on? It's like, oh, they have to go in. So we have this great scene where he annihilates all the bad guys, but he gets arrested because he shot 4 people or 5 people in the head. Like he grabs a gun, he shoots everyone.
And he goes, great move. Yeah.
I love the rolling the revolver on his arm. So good. And I was like, you think you show it once, it's cool. They show it like 3 times, 3 or 4. I never get tired of it.
I would never get, show it to us again.
That was the coolest. Keep showing us that. So I love that they got didn't we do this already? Let's do it again because people will love it. They do. I loved it. So he gets arrested, which I thought was funny. So that keeps happening too, which I think is funny. So he gets arrested. He has this sort of, do we have, we're going to bring charges or not? And they realize, of course, it's self-defense. Seriously, they've been implicated in other crimes and murder. So he gets off, but unfortunately for him, his face is on the news.
Right.
His family recognizes him. They think he's dead. So that's sort of the big setup. Like we've seen, this character kick ass major. He shoots people in the head. I thought that was part of what was hilarious. I thought was like, what? They take him out in the middle of the woods.
Right. That as part of the
target practice.
Like no, it was like part of the court proceedings to show, was it just a fluke that you could hit people in the
5 people
head?
Directly in the forehead in the middle?
All in the target, yeah. But I love how the other cop was fumbling because he's not used to using a gun and it's just
I love it too. They're like, there's a gun in this town. Like it was a big deal when there was some gun deaths because we're like, what? I mean, guns don't exist in this town.
Yeah.
So that was great too. So, but somehow this guy knows really well how to use a gun. But I thought it was hilarious that they have this supposed murderer who used a gun and was really good at it. They give him a gun. Here you go. Here you are, murderer who's possible murderer. We're going to hand you a gun and hope you don't shoot all of us. Like it would never
yeah, that was a weird little scene.
Hilarious. It's like, boy, you really trust this guy because you're going to give him a gun. And he just shot 5 people in the head. It's like, so he proves that he knows how to use a gun, and that was all very intentional. And then of course he gets off and he becomes the big hero because he killed these terrible people who had killed innocent people, including the vet. We find out.
I know. I knew Kathy was going to be upset about that.
Kill the vet. You find out later, they rescue this owl, and they're like, "Oh, it looks kind of sick when you take the vet." Oh, I'm sorry, the vet got murdered. He's like, "What?" See, that's when those guys were really bad. They killed a vet. How low can you get?
It was an old guy. Come
on. The vet in town, and they kill him. He's an old guy. He's just driving home.
Okay, let me take a point about that scene. Is that Gautham Vasudev Menon, who is a fantastic director, Silver Fox, and also an awesome actor. He played Vijay's friend. So I think he was like a forest police officer. So we see him at the beginning. He calls Vijay in to help with the hyena. That's how we're introduced to him.
He was great.
So he was in the trailer. And we didn't really know what his role was going to be from the trailer. He could have been the guy trying to chase Vijay down.
Yeah, I thought he was a cop. Yeah,
right, I thought he was going to be a cop that would be opposite Vijay, but he had a much bigger role than I was expecting. He was in the film a lot more, and I thought it was awesome. And I love that Vijay had this, this friend that was on his side and was just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to try to arrange it so you have protection and whatever, right? But yeah, I mean, he was in it a lot more than I was expecting. So that was awesome. But
that was awesome.
And other supporting, Trisha played Vijay's wife.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they just had a really good dynamic,
They
like
did.
old marrieds, you know. Like I just love. Now we did not get a sex on the stairs scene like Marina Bello and Vijay Viggo Mortensen, because that
What's
scene
up with
where
that?
where he's confronting her from trying to look into his past
Yes.
and see if he really, you know, all of this story that he had told her about being an orphan and all of this, if it was really true. She's trying to track it down, and they confront each other, but their child is in the room in their bed, and I'm like, yeah, there's not going to be any sexy times.
They have this massive house. They could have been in anywhere. They could have been like, oh, we're waking up our kid. Let's go over here and talk about it. No, they stay in the room after waking up. Like, you guys, you silly people. Anyway, so what turns out? So it turns out BJ has a bit of a humor, like a bit of an anger issue. So for good reason, it's where he gets activated, right? So they're all after this big to do. They're hiding out in the house. You know, they know there's trouble. There's chatter that there's people coming to get revenge for what he did. And they're like, we've been in this house for 4 days. Let's just go to the market. This is just quick little. So of course, you know, they're like in the market and they're looking around. He gets this call like, you know, there's chatter. You need to get out of there. And he's looking around going, no, why? Turns out every single person in the market was like
I know, I mean, like they're throwing axes. They're throwing like it was everything.
And so he activates again and gets into like, you know, and she had not really seen this in person yet.
Right. Now she's seeing it. Yeah.
And
she'd heard about it before. And she's like, but she was focused on you saved our daughter who's traumatized or whatever. Like they're concentrating on the daughter, right? After that. But yeah, I mean, then
that was another great set
then she sees it and where she's having to be like, who the hell am I married to?
Yeah,
what is even happening?
He's always been saving animals, but here he is now axing people. So it's like really.
And like she's trying to calm him down, like, you can stop now. You can stop.
He won't stop. He can't stop. Like that was great too. Like he's turned it on. He's got to, like he said, I have to finish it or they will kill. So he knows he has to kill everyone. And so that was a great scene too, where the one guy's trying to get away and he's chasing him and she's like, you have to stop. He's like, that's when he finally turns to her and he's like, no, I can't. And then you realize, so that's why, I mean, I think it's super clear who he is. I mean, it's like, of course he's Leo.
True.
So there we go.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about the flashback. So we get this flashback in the second half where we see Leo's background, the family dynamics, that we find out that he has a sister who seems to be awesome, but mostly what we get of her is a little awesome dance number with BJ, which I enjoyed.
I'm like, who's this girl?
And we find out not only, like, in the history of violence, it was just enough that it was a mafia family, and that you know, Viggo Mortensen was a hitman, and he could not escape the life. Right? That was just supposed to be enough. But
that's who you are. It's your family,
right?
It's your blood.
And you can't leave the family.
Right.
But they have to amp it up, like it was Crazy Town. Okay, like it was.
I don't know what they were trying to like. What was
I mean,
it?
that like that was the part of the movie where it was kind of like, really, did we have to go to ritual sacrifice of our children?
They're clearly satanic, I guess. But then he was doing Catholic, you know,
I know, like Sanjay Dutt's character is a Christian. Like there's crosses, there's a priest, but there's a priest telling him, just, you know, like Isaac in the Bible, like, you got to sacrifice your kid. I'm like, what? What?
So you're going to sacrifice one of your twins, and of course, they pick the son to live because, you know, Satan.
It was bonkers. Like, I mean,
crazy.
You've got Sanjay Dutt in your movie. He plays a great villain. Did we have to go there? Like,
but you know, we're talking this director. It's like dial it up. It's not enough.
I know, dial it up to not just to 11. We dialed it up to 13 at that point. You know.
So I love they have their little like room that they all like hang out and do gang stuff, but it was all like candles and like weird rituals
everywhere.
We're gonna sacrifice animals. Which, of course, I closed my eyes. I couldn't watch. I don't know if they actually showed animals getting sacrificed. But
they did. It was sort of like the Bahubali with the big knife and the blood spurting. Yeah.
So I was like, so I'm like, okay, so not only the bad drug guys, which, well, first of all, they make cigarettes, technically. So I love, like, he was given all this shit for that dancing, which was amazing, right? He comes in and does this great dancing, and he's got a cigarette. Everybody's like, oh, I can't believe they're promoting smoking. I'm like, are you guys kidding me right now? Every single person in indie movie is smoking with sunglasses on. Are you crazy? So they're giving him shit. He has a cigarette. Oh, you're promoting smoking. I'm like, they make cigarettes. Like, it makes sense.
It's a tobacco factory, people.
That is what they do. It's like, of course they have cigarettes.
Okay,
I thought it was hilarious.
Here's another fun detail.
Okay.
This new drug that they come up with.
Yes, I love that
powder. Okay, it's called Datura.
Okay.
I live on Datura Street.
Oh no!
Which I had never heard of that word when we moved there, and I had to look it up. And it's it's like this flowering plant.
Okay.
And I'm like, I've never seen it. I've never in real life. But the fact that half of this movie they're just gonna say it's the Datura. It's a Datura.
So is it like an opium? Like, what is it? Is it like opium or
I think they just made it up. I think they just made it up, but I think it's sort of supposed to be similar to like an opium, whatever. But I don't know if the real thing is like a poisonous or drug plant or whatever. But I was like,
but I do love that idea. It was actually a really genius idea. They had this huge tobacco factory, which is already, regulated and, dangerous and whatever. It's very, super flammable. Number one, as we know, they add drugs into the business. Of course, it builds their entire empire even bigger, even though they were a successful cigarette maker, but they get greedy, and especially what was his name? Harold? What was the character's name? Had a kind of funny name.
I don't know, but the actor's name is Arjun. And
Arjun.
He was awesome. Oh my God.
So good.
I'm not sure if I've ever seen him in a film before. He had such screen presence.
Oh my God.
Oh
so
my God.
Amazing.
When you have a hero like Vijay, you have to have a worthy opponent for us to be invested. Mm-hmm. We have to be invested. So first of all, you have Sanjay Dutt. Okay,
which I thought was going to be it.
Again, same. I thought, okay, that's enough. That's enough. You got Sanjay Dutt. No, that's not enough because we have to ramp it up to 13. Now we have to have Arjun too. And like their fight scenes, their interactions.
He was such a thug. And I loved his sort of 70s vibe. He had this sort of 70s,
totally.
He had the cool belt, but in the jeans. And then he looked like just that guy from some kind of Clint Eastwood movie or something. Just so great looking. And he had that great reveal. At first I thought it was Sanjay Dutt. And when that guy turns, I'm like, oh wait. Ooh, he's cool. I think I've seen his little promo for this character, but I did not realize.
No,
so then he becomes very central. Like he's the one that decides to do the drugs, add the drugs to the tobacco empire. So he ends up being kind of the worst of the worst because
right. Although he didn't sacrifice, I guess he did finally sacrifice. He was the one that actually killed the sister.
He's the one who picked her. He's the one that decided, right? He's going to go save Leo.
I still don't get that whole thing, but
I don't get it either. I didn't understand why they had to sacrifice anyone, but I guess I missed that part.
I guess it was like shorthand instead of having to have another 20 minutes of explaining why there's bad blood or whatever between the mafia. Like, I don't know.
It's an eye for an eye. Like, why are we killing her again? So that was a kind of a great scene, but don't turn your back on people with a gun. Just don't turn your back on the enemy if you're not going to finish them off. And I think that's what he learned. You got to kill him or they will kill you because he gets injured. And that's why they think he died because there's this big fire.
One quibble that I could have is that, and I guess they didn't really show this in History of Violence. You just saw that Viggo Mortensen loved his life as this family man.
Yeah.
And I think we got the same with Vijay, but we saw him really enjoying his life as Leo up until the point that his sister was killed.
Yeah.
And then it was because his sister said, get out of here, get away from them.
Yeah.
And so you
made a vow or something.
Right. But it's like, he grew to enjoy it, but it wasn't kind of like, oh, I'm so conflicted. I hate doing this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you felt like he really was kind of into the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And then, so it wasn't like reluctant hitman or whatever. I don't know. That was maybe, but you could see from all the scenes in the first half how much he loved his life, loved being a father, loved, having, living in this small town and whatever. I'm thinking right now about how the hyena is a parable for him because
wild animal,
kind of like this exotic animal that's completely out of its environment.
Yeah. He's scared,
looking dangerous. A dangerous animal looking for a place to hide.
That's right.
That's exactly what Vijay was.
He
was just looking for a place to hide.
Yeah.
But oh my God, the action in this film. Like we've watched, we're not going to name names, but we've watched other action films this week that felt very repetitive, and this one did not. Holy crap! Holy crap!
And just when you think they've blown you away, they do something else even crazier. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God. I love
Yeah.
too, like there's the big scene. There are a couple things when they go to his background. I love that he's kind of this rogue. He's kind of, just total, like, out of control, kind of an asshole. He's into it. He's just like, he's kind of like, they can't take him seriously. They don't really super trust him to run the business because he's kind of like, I'm just out partying and I'm gonna have a big dance in the factory and I'm gonna, like, just kill people for no reason and just blah, blah. Like, he just seemed like a total, and he had, like I said, he had that short cropped hair. He looked really cool and he always had a cigarette looking like that. Then they had that incredible scene. First, they show an eagle sitting on the desk, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh, love that.
Then they show this camera where all the fight starts breaking out when this whole big fiasco starts happening. They had this incredible, beautiful cinematography of swooping through the factory, all one shot. They had a lot of these too. I want to talk about these tracking shots.
It was the Eagles. Crazy. It was the Eagles.
Eagle. And once in a while you'd see the eagle kind of swoop to remind you that you are the eagle. And so they're flying over this factory, flying around this big long scene of seeing all this fighting choreographed below you. Oh, it just gave me goosebumps. Gorgeous cinematography. And then they did the same thing, insane cinematography for that street scene where they're chasing the convoy on the motorcycle with the cop from Cartier in the back.
Oh, I know. I mean, you felt like you were like an extra motorcycle that was in the scene.
Cars
like,
are flying over you. It felt 3D almost. It was insane. So I'm like
the imagination of Lokesh Kanagaraj and his DOPs, the cinematographers, what they gave us.
Yeah.
Like I said, how many chase scenes have we seen on roads with trucks and motorcycles?
Gautham had a great one too.
It felt so fresh. It felt like I literally didn't know where the camera was going to take me next, and I loved it. Really, really loved it.
So good.
And also, for my version of the film, it's not until almost the very last moments of the film that Vijay and Arjun are in that office together, and that he gives that kind of maniacal laugh, subtitle victorious laugh, and that he, reveals, I am Leo, like, because at that point,
a surprise to no one.
Yeah, well, I know, but Arjun was just kind of like, oh, you're not him because you would have killed me already.
Yeah, I love that arguing. Like, I love where he tried to kind of play it against him, like, nah, you're not him, kind of saying, you weren't gonna kill me. Don't kill me, okay? You're not him. You will not kill me. Oh, well, it didn't pay off, did it?
Oh my God, but I just loved how Vijay transformed in that moment. Like, you were like, okay, now. And then he comes out and he has the moment with his son. Now, we should say, like, in History of Violence, one of the key psychological things about it, wrestling with violence, is that he's trying to protect his family and be in a place where there isn't any of that, right?
Not even a gun in town, apparently.
Right. And that Viggo Mortensen's son saves Viggo at the end by shooting the bad guy with the shotgun.
Right.
So, but then they have this family dinner and they know he's a hitman, but they, just pass the potatoes and accept him in the family.
Yeah.
So this film shies away from some of that. I mean, the son does, use a knife or something and at least distracts his attacker enough for Vijay to do the final blow.
Yeah.
But and then they repeat the family dinner as one of our final scenes of the film of them. He's accepted. They're, even though they know his past, they're gonna stay as a family together. Yeah. So, because I was kind of waiting in this whole factory scene, I'm like, what is the son going to do? What is this? In my head, right? Because I knew the original film. I'm like, what's going to happen? And so I was a little, it wasn't all there for me, but it's a Tamil film. Of course, Vijay has to completely save the day and be the one
you can't have
everybody.
You can't do it. And then they had that refrain because they played that game of like, what would you do kind of thing. And and he kept saying, if you murder someone, even to protect someone, that makes you a murderer. Or if you're murdering someone to defend yourself, you're still a murderer. So he kept saying that. So at the end, the son was like, am I a murderer? He kind of was like, never mind that. No. It's fine. You didn't do the killing blow I did. So you're all right.
Right.
That was kind of a funny little moment. But and now you get it. Like he felt like, in a way, it almost felt like once you murder someone, you're now that person and you'll become me and you don't want to be me. I'm trying to keep this murder thing behind me, So there's that. So And of course, the factory goes up in flames, and it was pretty great.
Yeah,
because it's tobacco, of course.
But I do like this bargaining. Like we had it from the hyena scene where he's like, "Don't tell your mom that you were late for school. I gotta go deal with this." Right.
Yep.
And so then it carries through, like the son rebels a little bit, you know, and he's out smoking with the bad guys, you know, bad crowd. And then at the end, he's just like, don't tell your mom any of this. And then he's like, then you can't tell mom that I was smoking.
Yeah. Or that I had took my phone to school or whatever it is.
Well, whatever. It was just like
a little bargain. It was very cute.
Again, I like all those little tiny character relationship moments amongst all of this action that grounds us back, and I love it. So then and now I'm curious if you had the same ending that I did, where we had this mysterious voice.
Yes. Yeah, and what were those people? What were they wearing? Like it was like, I guess they were kind of hitmen or something. It was kind
so it was a tie. It was Kamal Hassan's voice, so it was a tie back to Vikram. So and then there was that one little scene where Vijay's in the coffee shop, and they're like, that weird woman. I don't know if she's press or something.
Yeah, and she was like,
she was a character. She was a character from the Vikram movie. So I didn't catch that immediately first either. I didn't remember that enough. But I mean, Napoleon is pretty. The short cop is pretty distinctive. That I was so like, good. He is so memorable. Like that. Yeah, when he came in, I knew exactly what that was from. But
that's right. There was a little bump like at the end where you're like in this control room, and you see all these screens, and then you hear him on the I don't know, he's on the speaker or whatever was happening with him, but you could hear his voice. And I'm like, oh shit, that's it. So you're right. They tied it directly to the universe now. So now we're having like this whole. Right. Will they ever interconnect?
I don't know what the plans are.
What are the plans, Billy? Tell me.
I mean, I don't know.
Why not? I mean, all that star power might explode the screen if you had all these people in the same movie.
Yeah, I might combust if I was in the theater with all of that happening.
I need to see, please, Lokesh. Please make a Rolex movie. Please make a Rolex movie. That's what I want. We need Surya. We need Karthi and Surya in the same movie, killing it. Literally killing it. That's what we want.
Well, anyway, I was extremely happy with this movie.
Yes, I was too.
And I was just hoping that you would enjoy it.
I did.
You know, I showed you Mursal, and I think you had seen Kaiti in the past, right?
Yes.
So you've seen Kaiti and Vikram.
I love Kaiti.
So yeah, I mean, this director, he's on my list now, you know, is one of my favorites because he just brings it. He just brings this flair, imagination, and he takes, you know, Vijay is one of my favorite actors, but I want to see him in a good story, right? Yeah. And that's what he gave me. He gave me a good story and not just okay. Like I didn't love Beast, Vijay's last film. I felt like it was so much fan service and just filler. And not, you know, it was just strictly for super fans of Vijay to get, that line was from that movie. Oh, he just quoted that lyric. Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, yeah.
It was a paycheck.
You did not have to be a huge Vijay fan and have watched a dozen of his films to love this film. Yeah. Right?
Right.
You didn't even have to have watched, as you pointed out, you didn't have to have watched Kaiti to know the cop character, because he still had an important part of this story, and just his stature and the way he was acting was enough. Like it's cherry on top that we know his background, but you didn't have to have that to enjoy it and to get the story and you know, enjoy the whole film. So that's what I love. You know, he really balanced it.
He did. And he made the choice of like, you have the cameo, but it needs to be able to live on its own. Like you can't assume the carrot everyone's
unless you're on a red Kashyap and then you just die.
Yeah, then it doesn't matter. It's like you're just in there and you're gone. And everybody's like, why did he shoot that guy? For no reason really, except they need to get the director out for lunch.
He has that face. That's why. I mean, the other thing that frequently a Vijay film will have several huge big dance numbers. This was not the kind of film. Like the one big dance number was organic to the story. Like they were celebrating something. Yeah, it showed off his character. It showed his relationship with his sister. So there,
great song though.
It was, but I literally looked at my watch. I'm like, we're almost 2 hours in before we get a big dance number.
And it was a flashback. It wasn't even part of his current life. Oh, but
Right.
speaking of music, that one song where it has a refrain, it goes, "Now I gotta pee," and they kept showing that. Like, what the hell? And they show him like walking through a door, and then it says, "Now I gotta pee" as a subtitle. You're like, what?
I also did not love that.
Hilarious. I was just like, okay. So I'm like, that twisted humor that he likes to bring.
But
it was
I
a big entertaining film.
I'm not saying we didn't have other songs. We had more like montage songs that
had
lots of plot
songs.
that had plot,
yeah.
Or showed the relationship with his wife or his family or whatever in the first half of the film.
Yeah.
But we only had the one big dance number. We didn't even have like an end credit, fluff or anything. And I'm fine with that. I don't know if his other fans were upset, disappointed. I felt like, you know what? We had enough else going on. I was happy.
One big dance number. And they played the "I'm a badass" or whatever. They played that like a bunch. Like every time there was a Leo like moment, they'd be playing that song. Leo badass. I'm like, we get it. He's killing people. He is a badass. It's true. We don't need you to tell us. It was fun though. I had a blast. It was really fun. I'm glad I saw it on the big screen.
I'm sorry that you had such a small crowd because it really was fun. Did you have VJ fans that were whistling or anything? Or
nope.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know. I wanted to be the one. I was gonna because I kept wanting to but then I thought, well, everybody look at me weird.
Yeah, I think you should have whistled. You would have gotten everybody else going.
I know. I should have been clapping or making a fuss or something. It didn't seem like the kind of crowd. Even the guy in front of me was filming the screen, but come on, people.
Well, anyway, I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. I'm so glad that you got to see it on the big screen too. And I'm really thankful that I got to talk about all the stuff that I was like, I can't say that.
I know. We spoiled this entire film, but you guys hopefully have seen the film by now. So
yeah, but it was super fun, and thank you for having me on and get to talk.
Totally, it was a blast. Okay, so you guys be sure and check out Perdesi Reviews for not only just the non-spoiler Leo that is much shorter, but also for many of the collaborations we're doing across the board. It's been super fun, and definitely subscribe to both of us.
Right.
Talk to you guys later. Bye.